Well, hello. This is my final live video in part of this series of live videos that I've been running, all part of the promotion for the current sale that's on my course, Understanding Scars. And I think this live video might really be one that's going to be useful for people to share on their page, because it's really going to educate the people that you're working with why they need to use either a scar cream, oil or gel, particularly in early recovery, in order to promote optimal healing in their scars. So hopefully a really useful one coming out to you, and also for any therapists or exercise professionals who just want to understand why it is I talk about this. There's lots, if you start Googling about, how should I look after my scar, and, what should I put on your scar when it's recovering, what should I recommend? It's a big one that comes up with loads of results, with lots of people trying to promote their products, and specially designed products, all about caring for scar tissue in particularly those early phases of recovery. So things that you need to know specifically is we shouldn't start using any products on the scar until it's re-epithelialized. So that means until it's got that new skin growth. So if it's still scabby, if it's got stitches in, definitely not. If there's any, obviously any oozing or weeping, any infection present, that is not the time to start putting on a scar cream, oil or gel, because it slightly seals the area. And obviously you need to go back to your medical team, particularly if it's a concern of infection. But also when there's a scab there, we don't want to lock that in. The body needs to get rid of those tissues. Apoptosis is occurring. So that's where the cells that are no longer needed are then being reabsorbed by the body. So when you should start with a cream, oil or gel is once you have that new skin growth. So once your scar has re-epithelialized, it has a new layer of skin on the top. And as soon as that happens, it's really important to get hydrating that scar. If you've got a very long scar, sometimes some bits have healed whilst other areas of the scar may still have scabs on them. In which case I would say the areas that have already healed, because sometimes, maybe there's been a problem with another part of the scar, maybe it burst open or there was an infection there, leave that bit well alone. But the part that has got new skin growth on it, do get started as soon as you've got that skin growth. And the reason that it's so important is that what our skin is doing when it hasn't got an injury, when it hasn't got a scar, is it's providing two things. It's a barrier function to stop any pathogens, any bacteria and nasty stuff in the environment getting into our body. And it's also locking in everything inside of the body. And it's important. We're very hydrodynamic beings. We're full of moisture. And so that sealant factor of keeping that moisture in is one of the really, really important things that our skin does. Now, when we've had a scar, we've obviously, that tissue has been opened or exposed to the air by some means, whether it was by a burn or a surgery, or you just had a trauma and had a really bad cut or something like that. Then obviously you've been exposed to pathogens in the environment coming into the area, and your body has got that potential to lose that moisture loss. What we need to do then is help tell the body that now we've got that new re-epithelialization, now we've got that new skin, it doesn't need to keep prolifically producing scar tissue. So it doesn't need to lay down more and more and more scar tissue, because in that transepidermal water loss is the full term for it, in that moisture that's been lost through the skin sends a message down into the deeper cells while it's still very thin, saying, oh my God, we haven't got enough barrier up there, send up some more scar tissue, send up some more scar tissue. And so with some individuals, and it will be very much on an individual basis, when they're losing a lot of fluids, losing a lot of hydration, or the body perceives them to be losing a lot of hydrations, even through these little scars, because you're talking about, the way that the cells react will be on a tiny area. There'll be cells underneath going, oh my God, there's a massive hole above us, quick, pump it up, put some more scar tissue up there. And we don't want too much scar tissue. We don't need a really thick scar. We're not looking for a really thick scar, because visually, for the person looking in the mirror, they don't want that. So as soon as you've got that new skin growth, starting with something which is occlusive, so that provides a barrier, something that's a humectant. So that is a kind of cream that pulls in moisture from the surrounding area to help make the area that has been exposed more fluid dynamic underneath. And emollient, so that's something that makes the tissues nice and supple. And then you've also got lots of really common factors during early healing. So itching and irritation and swelling are one of them. So any creams, oils or gels which can help reduce those symptoms are going to be really helpful. And there are some unusual things that onion extract is a really common one that's been used over the years for working with scarring. Things like aloe has been used. There's lots of products that can work to help scarring. Lavender is a very famously, when I used to teach aromatherapy many decades ago in the 90s, lavender was first discovered for its healing properties because a perfumer got a bad burn and plunged his burnt arm into the lavender and couldn't believe how beautifully it healed. So both natural products and things that are being developed in more scientific ways in laboratories to specifically help with those symptoms. There should be quite a big array of choice out there for people with scarring. What I would say is look for products that have some evidence behind them. Think about how those ingredients in those products. If a product is got loads of sort of chemical ingredients, I tend to steer away from them. I like products which aren't tested on animals. That's my personal preference, but it may very much depend on you. And of course, that big one is going to depend on budget as well. And there is a huge range of price bands for people wanting to put creams on their scars. So if you think about all of those things and think about where your client sits or where you sit, if you're the one purchasing the scar cream, oil or gel, putting something on your scar is better than not putting anything on. So if I'm working with somebody who is on a low budget, who can't afford to go out and buy a very, well evidenced but probably quite pricey cream for helping scar tissue, I would rather them use a cheaper option than leave their scar dry and potentially, like I say, get more scar tissue proliferation. But if somebody can afford a little bit more, looking into those products, there are companies that I've specifically, having been at lots of conferences, spent many years understanding about scars. BAP Scar Care is one of the companies that I like. I like their Al-Hydran cream. I like their BAP gel. They've got really good products, and they've also got silicone products, which are kind of strips that you can put onto scars. But they're not the only one. There's also lots of really lovely natural products being developed. And the lovely Kerry at the Cheltenham Beauty College up in Cheltenham, obviously, has made a lovely scar oil. I've met another lady called Catherine who made a wonderful oil for working on breast tissue, scars specifically, over in St Albans. So there are lots of people out there who are developing amazing. And Susie from the Amazing Vegan Wax Co said she's currently developing something for scars. How exciting, Susie! I can't wait to hear about that. Love your vegan products. So there's lots of different companies that are doing things. Coconut-based creams, Colette's just mentioning there. It can be good, although some people really do end up having reactions to things with a lot of coconut oil in. So it's one to be careful with. It's quite nice and thin and fine. It doesn't have overly heavy coconut odour, but certainly one to think about. So the next question is, how often should you be applying these scar creams, oils and gels? I would say definitely twice a day, morning and evening, but during the middle of the day, if you remember, put a little bit more on, particularly in those early weeks and months. But don't forget, you really need to keep thinking about that scar for the next 2 years as it's maturing. And the other thing is where it is. So if it's somewhere, perhaps on the face, somewhere on the arm, exposed to the sun, whatever you use either should have an SPF in it, a high SPF 30 or above, or you should be putting an SPF on top or keeping that scar out of the sun. Not only is your body worried about the water loss, but the normal protection that our skin gives us against the dangerous rays that come from the sun. And don't forget, it doesn't have to be a sunny day for those rays to come through. that normal protection is not there in a scar. So your melanin, that production of which makes us go brown in the skin, that is not there. So it's so key, if you're working with anyone with a scar or you've got a scar yourself, please keep it with an SPF for that first 2 years. Takes up to 2 years for your scars to mature, so don't give up on it after 6 months. Have an amazing end to the week, everyone. It's been great chatting to you. Don't forget, the online course Understanding Scars is on sale just for a couple more days now, and anybody interested in learning how to use their hands and work with scars, do come along to one of my hands-on courses. I'm running them around the UK. I've got not many spaces left for 2021, but there's lots of availability in 2022, and prices go up from October. But if you buy now, you'll be sealing the deal with the current prices. Bye everyone, thanks for watching.